Hi, guys. Welcome to episode 9 of Infinite Muses podcast, where love is infinite and creativity is our muse. Today we have the lovely Corina Fitch. Welcome, Corina. How are you today?
I'm wonderful, thank you.
Hi. Yay. So Corina is a licensed midwife, a certified professional midwife, and a registered NICU nurse with over 20 years of experience in the field of maternity and newborn care. Little babies.
Yay! She's also a transformational facilitator, mother of 3 daughters, each one bringing deeper knowledge of mothering into her life. She's focused now on also bringing to the clients nurturing workshops of how to connect with the mothering and how to have these self-care practices so you can nurture the mother and also after having a baby connect deeply with your children and being a mother. And so she's facilitating now more through workshops. And so we're so happy to have Corina here to explain this transition, this transformation that she's going through from being a very popular, busy midwife in Miami, Florida. She was actually my midwife and was so blessed to have her now. It's almost 16 years ago at my birth. And she was just this beautiful angel by my side. And I remember her angelic energy just really soothing me. And I was 12 hours in labor and I couldn't have asked for anybody better to be there facilitating than you. And now seeing that you have already 3 daughters, you know, and now you're doing this facilitating work for women to connect to their mothering nature and these workshops. Tell us a little bit about that and what's going on with you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I remember your birth very clearly too. I just remember I thought you were so graceful and so just instinctual. It was really lovely to be present with you. Yeah. So yeah, I've been, like you all said, I've been working as a midwife for many years. And after I became a mother myself, that was about 7 years into my midwifery journey. I was very humbled by my own birthing experience. And I really, after my daughter came into my life, I really began to understand more deeply how important self-care and self-nurturing is during pregnancy, and also, you know, as we step into the very intense role that it is and task to be a mother. And so I started learning more about the way the mother's thoughts and feelings affect her baby's development in utero, and started to teach my clients something called a fetal love break, which is a coined term, but I believe it was termed by a woman named Karen Strange, who teaches neonatal resuscitation with a lot of emphasis on the newborn as a very conscious being. And so essentially it's just a practice of every day slowing down and closing your eyes and kind of meditating and connecting with your baby. Which pregnant women do this intuitively all the time. You see them rubbing their bellies. But when they take that time to really sit and connect, they actually release hormones, endorphins and oxytocin, that send that baby a chemical message which says, I am safe, I am loved, I am protected. And then that in turn allows that fetus to develop the higher brain centers, versus if she's flooded with cortisol and adrenaline, those flight or fight or freeze hormones, then the baby gets a message of I'm not safe. And so in that situation, what ends up getting developed more is the brainstem, the flight or the amygdala, right? And which makes people, when you have a very large amygdala, you're bound to be more violent and aggressive because that's what's going on in your brain. And so I started to teach my clients these fetal love breaks and other really nurturing practices like yoga nidra, which I discovered in my second pregnancy and has been like a lifesaver, still is. I do it almost every day because as a mom and a midwife, you don't, and a single mama, you don't get enough sleep. And yoga nidra is like, it takes you to those deep brain waves that you reach when you're in deep sleep, but you're going there consciously, so it's also transformational. So that's been another really big tool that I try to engage my clients with. And after the birth of my third daughter, I went through a major life change and a very intense experience with postpartum depression and anxiety, which now I feel like was a sort of a combination of like midlife crisis, postpartum depression, and just dark night of the soul. It was like really deep reckoning with stuff that had been suppressed within myself from a very young age that kind of got released when my daughter was born. And what Amaya, who was my youngest, what she gave me was the gift, the terrible gift I call it, of postpartum depression. Terrible because it's awful to feel that way, but a gift because it did offer me profound transformation and gave me sort of a new direction for my work because I realized it really was not sustainable for me to be this mother. And I've been doing mostly variations of homeschooling for all my daughters. So I'm with them most of the time unless I'm working. And so to be able to be that really present, engaged mother that I want to be, um, and also be on call 24/7 was really not going to work as well as it had been with one child or even two children. And so I had been studying with a woman named Claire Zammit, who is the founder of a body of work called Feminine Power, and I had become, actually when I was pregnant with Amaya, I was going through the facilitation training, and now I'm a certified feminine power facilitator. And so it just made so much sense for, since I was a little girl, I knew that I wanted to be a midwife. I was born actually in a bus in the woods in an intentional community in Tennessee called the Farm,
yeah,
which is known often in natural birth circles. And then
tell us a little about, it's connected with Ina May, right?
Yes, so it was Ina May's husband was the founder of the farm, and he was basically he was actually a war veteran, and he got into psychedelics and into Eastern philosophies, and he started doing this thing called Monday Night Class in San Francisco in the late '60s. And he had quite a following of people that would come, and he would speak for a little while, and then they would do a meditation. And so he was invited to speak all around the country at different college campuses, and all the people that had been going to his class said, well, hey, can we come with you? So there was this caravan of buses that was touring the country, and a few babies were born along the way. And so Ina May attended her first birth during the caravan. She didn't have any training. She just, it just worked on instinct. And
wow.
Yeah, and probably she read some books, and then they when they were in Tennessee, they found some land that was very affordable, and decided like, hey, let's live these principles that we're talking about, that we're engaging in. Let's like create a community where we're living this way. And so they bought the land and created the community, which ended up becoming the largest intentional community in the U.S. When I lived there, at its height, there was about 2,000 people that lived there.
Wow.
Right now,
Shani was. I remember hearing about one of the Muses was also connected with the farm. I think born there as well.
We'll have to check. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you have to check.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and now people have in '83 there was a big change in the structure of the community. We went from like basically being economically communistic to capitalism, and so a lot of people left. We stayed for a year after what we call the changeover, and then we moved to South Florida in '84. And my mother was attending births on the farm as an assistant to the midwives. And so when we moved to Florida, there were some midwives from the farm. They had like a little center here as well. And she continued to attend births with them. And so when she would come home and tell me stories. So from when I was about 12, I knew that I wanted to become a midwife. And I just thought that was my calling. I felt, it was truly something that I felt called to. And I never imagined that I would do anything else. And then with Amaya's birth, it was like, wow, I can really have more impact and more reach with what I know and what I've experienced and what I can share with pregnant women and with mothers by doing courses, online courses, and facilitating groups. I was doing more live stuff, and now everything's virtual. But yeah, MotherFly was born out of that. Really, like I would say, like 4 months after Amaya was born, I put MotherFly out there into the world, and then I fell into this 3-year period of depression, and so it was.
Wow, that's a long time.
It was a long time.
Wow.
It was.
Yeah, no, I've been through spouts of depression, but they haven't lasted that long. That's a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, a little bit. So pretty much, I had suffered from depression, when I was younger, and I found this Qigong master when I was 21, and he worked on me, did Qigong, and I ended up with the energy and studying with him, getting over my depression. But I started doing martial arts and then yoga, and I have to do consistent yoga for my depression. And then during the pregnancy, that's why I went at 6 months pregnant with Ocean. I went to Kundalini Yoga master Gurmukh Karkasa, and I did that 1 week training with her because I was so scared that I was going to go into a postpartum depression. And the Kundalini training was 1 week, but they gave us so many tools, that with the prenatal yoga, and then also studying, I read all those books, Ina May's book during my pregnancy, Janet Velasquez. I was really meditating every day, and these kind of practices, what you're doing now, facilitating and meditation, and also, what I do with the prenatal yoga and all this stuff is so crucial. It's so important. And I believe so much in this work. So if anybody's out there and they're listening, it is so important to connect with a facilitator, somebody who's been practicing and is able to guide you, because sometimes it gets hard. It really does. And going into those depressions it's just so hard to get out of them, and it affects your children. And, getting out of it can be a miracle, really. I'm sure you can, after you got out of your depression, now you felt like, wow, I'm empowered to help other people going through this because you were able to do it and you got out of it. And so this kind of work is so crucial and important for women, because I think the most important aspect is during pregnancy, really, because that baby, and I was just doing actually one of your clients yesterday, I was giving her a prenatal massage, and with the relaxing music, and she fell asleep after. She went into like a yoga nidra for 20 minutes after, and she was like, oh my gosh, she came out like, oof, and we need to be doing this kind of self reflection, self-nurturing, self-care during pregnancy. I can't even stress how much I believe so much in the prenatal work that I did during my pregnancy, and helping me to labor 12 hours without any medication and birth naturally. And this type of work, I say, when you are about to labor, it's running a race. You have to mentally prepare yourself. And also, I'm sure what ended up happening with you is that you have so much work on top of you had 2 other babies and a single mom, that it's so overwhelming. I can't even imagine having all of that, because your casework, you had 4 to 6 clients a month that you had to take care of, so you're giving out so much energy. So you probably felt depleted, but you're just trying to survive, because Miami, obviously, it's just an expensive city. So a lot of single moms end up kind of like, it's not even our fault. We're just end up having to kind of overwork ourselves, and we end up getting depleted, because we're giving so much to our babies, and we're also giving to our clients that we forget, oh wait, but yeah, we have to be very careful with the amount of energy we're giving out, especially when we have, so much being asked of us through our kids and through our clients and all that. And we want to give and want to be there present with them and be good at what we're doing, be good at a mom, be good at a midwife, So I'm so happy that you're now able to move and maybe get out of Miami for a little while, and, tell us a little bit about that, because
we all need to.
Yes. I know I got out of Miami.
I did this year. I ran away for a second. Now I'm back, and now I want to run away again.
And I'm in my Miami outfit today. I got out.
We're all like very Miami today.
I wore this because I know you're also an African goddess dancer, which you haven't even gotten into.
Oh.
You're amazing. I remember Corina being super pregnant doing this African dances
I love it.
On stage, and I was like, wow, look at this goddess dancing, and she's giving births and giving birth, and and facilitating birth. So yeah, tell us a little bit about your farm, where you're headed.
Yeah, so, well, I went up to the farm for winter break this past year, 2019. And I was kind of in a dip. I was still, I had been feeling good for a while. So when I say 3 years, it was like I might have like 6 months of feeling depressed and then a couple months where I felt good or something like that. And then slowly it's been like longer periods of feeling good. So this was a dip after a long time actually of feeling really well. And I went up with my best friend Ramona, who also was born and grew up there. And the last hour of the drive, finally the kids fell asleep because it was her 2 and my 3. And for the full like 16 hours, they just did not fall asleep. But that last, they finally fell asleep. And so she was like, maybe you should move back to the farm. And as soon as she planted that seed in my head, I was just like, wow, maybe. Let's see how I feel when I'm there. And I tell you, it was just this full body knowing when I landed on the soil there. And then in the time that I spent there, the people that are still living there, there were some people there that I didn't realize were back. And I was like, oh, wow, you're here. Cool.
Oh, wow.
And for me, it just made so much sense because a lot of my stress during my depression was financial.
Yeah.
And also had to do with the speed at which we expect mothers to move in this world, which is absolutely insane and ridiculous.
It's horrible.
Yes.
It's horrible.
They expect you to have a full-time job and be a full-time mother at the same time. And it's just not sustainable. And the stress levels are so high. And as much as I love Miami and I have so much community here, I have family and I really love the city. It's very diverse. It just wasn't, the stress level was too high and it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah. So you're going for a way of life, to live life, really.
Yeah. I mean, your stress levels are going to be so much lower. You're going to feel so much better. Yeah.
From like a 10 in stress to like a 0 during that there. And I wasn't sure if I was going to like it because it was winter too. And I'm used to warmth. I like warmth. But it was so beautiful. And my daughters just loved it.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
And they've been there before, but it's amazing to me that they have such a special bond to that place, considering, they've only been there a handful of times for maybe a week. And yeah, it was just like, okay, this on so many levels, this makes sense because I get to slow down. It's a way that I can transition my work to be making most of my income from MotherFly and just a small portion from midwifery, so that I can be off call more and be present with my children. And then I get to offer my daughters a way of growing up in a village setting and in the natural, with a connection to the natural world in a way that
so important. That's so
city.
important.
And really, I mean, since I left there, I always had a vision of returning once I had children because I knew that I wanted my children to grow up in community. And I'm so thankful for the community that I do have here. I have amazing community here in Miami, and it's so diverse, and I really appreciate that. And I think that's been probably the biggest barrier to thinking about moving back to the farm because it's pretty much, it's predominantly white, and I have brown-skinned girls, and it's really important to me that they're around people that look like them.
Right.
So that is something that is a concern of mine, but I know that it's not going to be forever, and it will be a place that it's kind of like going back to the womb for me as I transition from belly mama to MotherFly. It's like this cocoon where I feel safe. I feel like I'll have time to think and write and be slow and be with my girls. And so
that sounds
where I'm going. And then the pandemic.
Can we go?
No, there's so many people right now are literally through this pandemic. This is why we started the podcast. We feel like it's a rebirth for many people. We've been able to slow down and really say this pandemic has been really, people been able to say, hey, this is not working for me, or this is working for me, or even it's just forcing us to shift, into different directions. And maybe otherwise we just be in that mode of just like go, 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 and not be able to slow down and really be able to do that shift that we all need to go through for whatever reason, the whole planet, shifting.
Yeah.
So,
it's a huge time of
I would
pivoting personally and collectively.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would say even, you know, my sister, while you guys have been talking, I think about my sister. She has 3 boys under the age of 8, you know, so she's up in New York, but I used to be able to travel a lot more, and stay like a month at a time with them. And it's just, I see how amazing motherhood is and how important it is to support mothers, you know? So, I mean, she's had it lucky where she, you know, she has a husband and a lot of support, and even still, oh my God, it's
No,
like,
mothers
it's
need
insane,
also like
you
connections
know?
with women and
Yeah,
mothers, you know, even if you're even doing like a Zoom call with different moms. And that's what I was just saying to the other day, like that, those prenatal yoga classes, when I facilitated prenatal yoga classes and we'd all get together, you could just feel that energy of all the moms being together. And it's so healing, for having that connection with other mothers going
yeah,
through a pregnancy, the same thing and then having the mommy and me, and having your babies all kind of grow up together. And so what you're doing is so needed. Moms need to really remember how important it is for self-care, especially nowadays when the demands are so high for women and men, and everything has gotten so much more expensive with inflation rate. If the inflation rate's out of control, really, you know, I'm sure you lived in Miami, you saw the inflation happen with real estate and everything.
Yeah.
So, you know, something that, you know, for us is that we're trying to keep up with it, but we have to stop and say, wait, you know, this isn't healthy for me anymore.
Right.
You know, and so there's a moment in time where we have to make these changes for ourselves, for our own health, mental health, physical health, and for our children's health as well. And that's pretty much why I decided to make the move closer to my parents, and you know, for my own self as well. So
Yeah.
we're with
Well, you
you,
know,
and go ahead.
I just wanted to say, you know, the idea of a nuclear family is really recent in history,
right.
and that's really only like the last 100 years of human history that we've had this concept of raising children within a nuclear family. And before that, it was a village mentality, it was a tribe, and there was this concept of other mothers, right, aunties and sisters and
Right.
other people and that's how I was raised on the farm. I mean, I lived in households with like 30 people and several families, and so there was several adults that could help with the child care and everything that needed to be done. And what we expect of mothers nowadays is just unrealistic and unfair, and that we have to really shift the whole system. So you know, that's the good thing about the
No,
pandemic.
my
It's
ultimate dream vision is literally a temple for women and children. That's my ultimate dream, or a place where women can go while they're pregnant, and they can take classes, nurturing mother classes, prenatal classes, massages, drink their tea, talk, hang out. This is a vision that I've been holding on to, because I think it's so needed and so important. I was just talking to my clients the other day. It's so, I don't know how there's not that. I don't understand how there's not a place for mothers, like an open space where they can go drink tea during pregnancy, get a massage, take some classes, some nurturing mother classes, some, you know, infant massage classes after the baby's born, these kind of things of, you know, kind of the facilitating that you're doing, you know, teaching, you know, women how to have these tools, you know, to manage stress, or to also deal if they're in domestic violence situations as well, and how to get out of them and feel that they're not stuck and they're supported by women in the community. I think this is the healing that the planet needs, really. I think this is so important. Absolutely. For our children. And absolutely. When the baby is born, that whole birth experience, you know, those memories are in our subconscious forever. So that's why when I was, you know, birthing my baby, I wanted to be as peaceful as possible with the, you know, the water and the music, and being with midwives and that energy, because I know that it's, when we're birthing a baby, it has to be, you know, the pregnancy has to be calm and peaceful, and the birth experience has to be calm and peaceful. So these tools that you're bringing are gonna, you know, bring more peace into the planet.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that when we, you know, the health of mothers in society is really an index for the advancement, how advanced that society is.
Absolutely.
The U.S. is the only industrialized nation with a rising maternal mortality rate. And for Black women, it's 3 to 4 times higher than their white counterparts. So
Wow.
We have a lot.
So, yeah, it's a disparity there with in healthcare that I don't know, we should look into. I don't know why that's happening. What do you think that disparity is happening with African American women?
It's, I mean,
Nutrition, probably, maybe?
no, it's really more about the experience of living as a Black person in this country and the amount of stress that you take on when you're moving through the world as a Black woman, as a Black man too. But we're talking about maternal mortality. So, that they've done studies that they've looked at these disparities and they've looked at the different health parameters and whether the women are educated or higher socioeconomic status or poor, it doesn't matter. The outcomes are equally horrendous for on all those levels. It's really the stress of dealing with institutionalized and personal racism, microaggressions, all these things that we don't, as white folks, we don't have to experience the world in this way. We don't think about it. It can be invisible to us because that's not our experience. But that's what it is, and we've known that for at least a decade, if not more. But we're still just now really starting to take action to make changes.
Right. Yeah. This is along the lines of the Black Lives Matters movement, I'm sure, because there's a lot of disparities within the COVID as well with African American males. They're the women and high mortality rates with maternal mortality rates. And then we also have with the COVID, higher mortality rates for the African men. So yeah, these are disparities that are highlighted now during this COVID time and as well need to be addressed.
Not right. Yeah. I feel like everything that is not right about our culture is being put into the light right now.
Oh yeah.
And that's the beautiful thing about this pandemic, because as hard as it is to see and face the truth, it's the only way forward. And so I mean, I guess people can deny, but it's
time for truth. Yeah, and the truth hurts. So we have to kind of like endure the pain. But I was just writing a post this morning because I saw this one of those little memes quotes, and it was all about pain. And a lot of people run away from pain, or they avoid pain, they resist pain. Even in the massage, I'll find a trigger point and I'm like, no, they're like, oh, stop. They stop breathing. Like, no, we're going to breathe into the pain, let it come up. And then as soon as they just resist and let go, we can get rid of that pain, but we have to acknowledge it first. We have to acknowledge what it is that's happening first. And I think this is like a pimple, coming up to the surface with this COVID situation. A lot of these disparities and inequalities that we're facing as a collective, are coming up for us to heal it.
Yeah.
So what about a muse? Do you have a muse? Since you're a muse, do you have a muse? Who's your muse?
I thought of so many different women and influences in my life, but the two that stood out the most are my grandmother. Her name is Frida, and she's no longer with us, but she was just an amazing, beautiful, eloquent, and elegant, but also very fierce and independent woman. And then, and she's just been coming up for me a lot lately. And then the other one that this woman that I'm just loving so much is the AOC. AOC. I know, she's like one of my muses too. I like watch her. I'm like, man, that girl, you go. She says it so clearly too. I was like, oh wow, she's so clear and so fierce. And she has like a Kali energy about her. She's like ready with her spear. Like, I'm gonna cut through this ignorance. Yeah. I hope she runs.
I don't know spear, but what is her?
Oh yeah.
She has her sword. You see her sword, right? You see it.
Yeah.
It's like, just let's cut through the ignorance. Yeah.
Yeah. She doesn't beat around the bush, and she's
straightforward.
Yeah, very straightforward.
Like, this is what's going on, and it's really upsetting for me because I have Cuban heritage, and very proud of my Cuban heritage. But they're trying to brainwash all the Cubans that she's a socialist and a communist. And so, if I post anything about it, everybody's like, oh, she's a socialist, she's a communist. It's like, no, she's fighting for workers' rights. And you guys are all workers. She's fighting for middle-class rights, just basic human rights. you know, but they can't hear that because they've already tried to brainwash, you know, people against her. And, but she's so fierce, and I hear her, what she's saying. And I think she's 100% right, you know, what she's saying. I just watched the documentary on Netflix, and everybody should see that documentary. Have you seen her documentary on Netflix? It's called Upside Down House. It's called, I think it's like a tear down the house or something like that. Something about tear down the house. It's on Netflix, and it follows her, the documentary following her making it to Congress. And her, whole, the election, her, you know, running for Senate or Congress, wherever she's at. And she's just so amazing in that documentary. And it's a great depiction of exactly who she is, and not all the propaganda against her. So I highly recommend, for the viewers to watch it, and for yourself. It was inspiring. Absolutely. It was inspiring, that documentary.
Yeah, she's very inspiring. I keep showing my oldest, Nahama. She's 13 now, so I keep showing her little clips of her speaking out against, you know.
Yeah, you've done so many beautiful things, Corina, in this community. I remember when you would do a holistic moms group, and Nahama running around, and she was so little, and now she's 13. She always would put all her babies, because when she, you know, gives birth to all the babies that she gave birth to, she would have these picnics. Yeah, and I remember how her babies grow since they're born. Yeah, so great to see them in all the pictures and all that. Well, we just want to, you know, thank you so much for sharing your story and all your amazing work that you're doing with the community and your future goals, and wish you the best.
Thank you.
And anything else you want to say?
Yeah, no, we'll just post all about you and how people can get in touch, and, you know, pregnant mamas.
Well, thank
pregnant
you all.
mamas need help. We're sending them to you. Like I said, I saw my sister go through 3 pregnancies. So, woo.
No, it's very important work. This is beautiful.
Yeah.
Takes a village. Yeah. So thank you.
All right. So we'll be putting all your information up on the Infinite Muses IG. And so check that out. We'll connect people who want to connect with you, and then infinitemuses.com as well. So thank you so much for joining us. We love you.
Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.